After I read the Elkins Creek file, I did not sleep for 2 days. Not because I was scared. I was past scared. I was angry. A ranger sees the same thing happen 3 times on the same ridge over 16 years. He files a report. He requests an investigation. And they seal the cave, move him to a desk, and stamp the file. That is not an oversight. That is a decision somebody made. So I went back to the box. Not the way I used to. Before, I would pull a folder out every few months, read it at the kitchen table, tell myself it was just stories. This time I pulled everything out, spread the folders across the garage floor. 47 folders. I counted them. I was looking for the other files with Machen's name. He appeared in 3 more folders. I wanted to find those first. But before I got to them, I found something I had missed. The Elkins Creek folder, the one I had just read. I picked it up to set it aside and felt something shift inside the cardboard. The folder had a stiff backing, like a clipboard. I had not paid attention to it before. But when I turned it over, I saw that the backing was slightly split along one edge. Something was taped inside it. It was a cassette tape. Standard size. No case. Just the tape, wrapped in a piece of wax paper and fixed to the inside of the cardboard with electrical tape that had gone brown and brittle with age. There was a label on the cassette, handwritten, blue ink. The writing was small and careful. NFS interview number 0967-4, Harlan County, Kentucky, June 14th, 1967. Subject, Mrs. E. Calloway, spouse of Ranger T. Calloway. Missing. And below that, in different ink, darker, like it had been added later, 2 words. C. Machen. Whoever put this tape in the folder wanted Machen to hear it, or Machen had already heard it and filed it here himself. Either way, it was hidden inside the Elkins Creek file for a reason. I did not own a cassette player anymore. I had to drive to a thrift store in Flagstaff and buy one for $3, the kind with the little speaker built into it. When I got home, I sat in my garage with the player on the workbench, put the tape in, and pressed play. The tape was in rough shape. I could tell from the first few seconds. The audio was thin and uneven, like the ribbon had been stretched in places. There was a constant hiss behind everything, and every few minutes the sound would warp and drag, like the tape was catching on something inside the housing. But I could hear enough. It was an interview, a formal one, a man asking questions and a woman answering them. The man sounded like every government employee I have ever spoken to. Flat, professional, going through the motions. The woman was different. She started calm, but you could hear something underneath it, like she was holding herself together very carefully and did not know how much longer she could keep doing it. The first part of the tape was already damaged. It started in the middle of a sentence. The interviewer was identifying the case for the record. Something about a follow-up interview regarding the disappearance of a ranger, Thomas Calloway. Seasonal employee. Daniel Boone, National Forest. Station 7. The woman was his wife. She told the interviewer that her husband left for his shift on the morning of June 2nd, 1967. Took his pack and his radio. Said he would be back by dark. He did not come back. She waited until midnight, then called the district office. They said they would send someone in the morning. 3 days later, a search team found his campsite near a creek about 9 miles from the station. Everything was there. His pack, his food, his radio still clipped to the strap, and his boots. Inside the tent, laced together, set neatly beside his sleeping bag. I had to stop the tape when I heard that. Kentucky. 1967, 900 miles from Colorado. 7 years before the Elkins Creek incident. and the same detail. The boots, placed carefully inside the tent, like the person who took them off expected to put them back on in the morning, but never did. I pressed play again. The interviewer asked her if her husband had been behaving unusually before he disappeared. There was a long pause on the tape. When she spoke again, her voice had changed, slower, heavier, like she had been waiting for someone to ask that question and dreading it at the same time. She said Tom was not the kind of man who got rattled. 20 years in the service. Bears, storms, lost hikers. None of it bothered him. But about 3 weeks before he vanished, something changed. He came home from a patrol one evening and he was quiet. Not tired quiet. The kind of quiet where someone is thinking about something they do not want to talk about. She asked him what was wrong. He told her he had found a cave entrance. Said it was in a hollow about 6 miles from the station, at the base of a limestone shelf. He said the entrance was narrow, but the airflow coming out of it was strong. And then she said something that made me set down the coffee I was holding. She said he told her it was like the mountain was breathing. The mountain was breathing. That is what the ranger in Colorado wrote too. The airflow from the deeper passage was noted as significant. Same observation. Different state. Different decade. 2 people standing at 2 different holes in the ground, hundreds of miles apart, and both of them describing the same thing. She said he went back to the cave the next day. And the day after that. He told her he was mapping it for the district, but she knew he had not filed any paperwork. He was going on his own time, before his shifts, after his shifts. She would hear him leave before dawn. After about a week, he stopped talking about the cave. She thought he had lost interest, but he had not stopped going. She could tell because his clothes had that smell. That damp mineral smell you get from being underground. And his hands had cuts on them, small cuts, on his palms and fingers, like he had been gripping rough rock. She asked him about the cuts. He said it was nothing, scrapes from clearing brush. But she said something else. She said brush does not leave limestone dust in your wounds. Calcite. The same thing the coroner found in the lacerations on the backpacker in Colorado in 1963. The same fragments they found on the survivor from Elkins Creek. 3 different people. 3 different states. Something underground cutting into their hands and leaving the same mark. The tape warped badly for about 30 seconds here. I lost some of what she said. When the audio came back, she was talking about the last week before he disappeared. She said Tom started sleeping badly. He would wake up in the middle of the night and sit on the edge of the bed, not moving, not talking, just sitting there. She asked him what he was listening to, and he said he did not know. And then she told the interviewer something that I have not been able to get out of my head since I heard it. She said she woke up one night and he was not in bed. She found him standing outside the cabin, barefoot in the grass, 2 or 3 in the morning. He was facing the tree line, facing the direction of the cave. She called his name twice before he turned around, and when he looked at her, she said it was like he did not recognize her, just for a second. Like he was somewhere else entirely, and she had pulled him back. Then he blinked and said he had just come out for air, standing outside, barefoot, middle of the night, facing the trees. I thought about my last morning at that ranger station, the footprints in the dirt outside the front door, bare feet, leading away from the station toward the tree line, no prints coming back. I was alone at that station. I told myself those prints could not have been mine. But hearing this woman describe her husband doing the exact same thing, standing outside in the dark, barefoot, staring at the trees. I am not sure anymore. What if I did go outside that night? What if I walked out there and do not remember it? I do not want to answer that question, so I will keep going. The interview went on for a few more minutes after that. The interviewer asked the usual questions. When was the search called off? Was there any indication of marital problems? Had Ranger Calloway experienced mental health difficulties? Standard procedure, the kind of questions designed to close a case, not open one. Mrs. Calloway answered every one of them with the patience of a woman who knew nobody was really listening. Then the interviewer thanked her and said he was going to stop the recording. I heard a click, like someone pressing a button, and I expected the tape to end there, but it did not. The recorder kept running. The sound changed. It got quieter, more distant, like the machine had been set down on a desk, but the microphone was still picking up the room. I heard a door close. She had left. And then the interviewer started talking to someone else, someone who had been in the room the entire time, but had not said a single word during the interview. The interviewer said, and I am going to say this exactly the way I heard it, because I have replayed it in my head 100 times since. He said, "That is the fourth one this year." There was a pause, then the other voice, deeper, older. I could barely hear it over the tape hiss. He said, "Same as the others." The interviewer said, "Same as the others. The boots, the cave, the cuts on the hands." She mentioned the airflow too. And then the tape started to go. The audio warped, stretched. I heard fragments. The second voice said something about whether she had spoken to anyone. The interviewer said, "Not yet." And then the second voice said something else. I caught 2 words clearly before the tape chewed itself apart. Mines, where they go. That is all I got. The ribbon caught in the player, and by the time I hit stop, about 4 inches of tape had crumpled inside the housing. I tried to smooth it out. I tried to re-spool it. I played it again. It was worse the second time. The section with the 2 men talking was gone, eaten by a $3 cassette player in a garage in Arizona. I sat there holding the ruined tape for a long time. The fourth one this year. That is what he said. 1967. 4 people disappeared that year, the same way. And this man talked about it like he was filing an expense report. And the second man, the one with authority, he wanted to know if she had talked to anyone. He wanted to make sure it stayed quiet. And then, where they go. Those were the last clear words on the tape. I do not know the full sentence, but I know where the files went. I am sitting in a garage surrounded by them. After the tape died, I sat there turning the cassette over in my hands. That is when I noticed the other side of the label. On the back, in the same blue ink as the interview details, someone had written a list. 5 lines. Each one was a location and a date. Harlan County, Kentucky, 1967. Elkins Creek, Colorado, 1958, 1963, 1974. Marble Fork, California, 1951. Cheat River, West Virginia, 1949. Siskiyou, Oregon, 1971. 5 locations, spanning 25 years, East Coast to West Coast. Someone had been tracking this, not just in one park, not just in one state, across the entire country, connecting incidents that were never supposed to be connected. And at the bottom of the list, circled twice, was a single word: limestone. Every location on that list sits on a limestone formation. Every one of them has documented cave systems. I pulled a road atlas off my shelf and looked up each location. Then I did something I had never done before. I looked up limestone cave maps for the United States. The geological surveys show that limestone karst systems run beneath huge sections of this country. Underground rivers, caverns that have never been fully mapped, passages that go deeper than anyone has explored. And in every one of the locations on that list, people went missing. The same way, the same pattern, the boots, the caves, the cuts on the hands. People found miles away with no memory of how they got there. I do not know who wrote that list. It could have been Machen. It could have been someone before him. But whoever it was, they understood something that nobody was supposed to understand. This is not happening in one place. It is happening everywhere the limestone goes. I have 44 folders left to read. These are the buried archives.